Welcome back to the channel. I am Jim Green, and today is a very special topic for me. I love Percy Jackson, and it's really the only series and books that I can actually get into. So once I heard that Rick Riordan is driving the Disney Plus adaptation TV show for his Percy Jackson series, I was beyond ecstatic. It was something that I've been dreaming about for a long time, so it's something I've always been waiting for and was hoping for, but never really thought was going to happen. So for those that don't know by now, yes, Rick Riordan is working on the TV show and has the pilot episode. He's gone through a few drafts through different executives, and now it's at the top level of Disney Plus executives saying, "Can we get the go ahead? Can we get greenlit?" and go from there. So with it being so close to being approved and given the green light, I wanted to take some time to cast the gods / Chiron. They are not necessarily the focus, but they deal with a lot of are the pivot point for these books, which means that their actions are going to heavily involve themselves in the story. And while some gods aren't always there and aren't always involved, they still should be casted at some point because they do come up later. And if they do end up going from not just the Percy Jackson Olympians 5 books for the Lightning Thief and all of those, but also going into the Heroes of Olympus and doing the Roman and Greek, or maybe even the Magnus Chase and going from there, and then the Trials of Apollo. Like, I'm hoping all of this happens, but we can only take a breath and hope that everybody turns out for the Lightning Thief first season. So with that being said, let's get going. I will be giving a brief description of the gods before I give my reasoning and my cast choice. So up first is Zeus. He is the Greek god of the sky, and he has appeared, as Rick Riordan describes him, as muscular and tall with electric blue eyes, flowing black hair, and salt and peppered beard. He exudes power even in human form. His moods and facial expressions are as changeable as the skies, by turns of sunny or gloomy, or calm or raging. He wields his famous weapon, the Master Bolt, with deadly skill. When not in use, the bolt rests in a clip that hangs from his belt with his pinstripe suit. The air surrounding him is described as smelling of ozone and fresh rain. He is stubborn and suspicious. Zeus often takes the self-serving route rather than the selfless, especially when it comes to his throne or authority is in jeopardy. Essentially what he's saying is this guy is completely self-centered and only sees demigods as a means to do his bidding, essentially, because he can't necessarily always get involved in everything on Earth, so he uses demigods to get his way. That being said, my casting choice is Keanu Reeves. Sounds strange, but think about it. He has the presence of someone that can command the room. He walks in and everyone just shuts up and listens to him. He can literally just pull off someone that is prideful and thinks only of himself and everything he does is perfect. But he also thinks he's above everyone else, but he's also can be a fierce fighter when needed. Sean Bean did a great job in the first movie with the Lightning Thief, but Keanu Reeves would just take it, that special spot that isn't really shown so far yet. Next up is quite possibly the most important Greek god to cast as far as this series go, which is Poseidon. And as he is described in the book, he appears as tall, muscular, and deeply tanned 40-something man with black hair, a neat beard, and warm sea green eyes with deep laugh lines. He dresses casually in a Hawaiian shirt decorated with coconuts, parrots, Birkenstock sandals, and an old fisherman's hat with lures and the words of Neptune's lucky fishing hat. His temperament is mostly relaxed, even joking at times, unless he is at war, when he channels his water manipulating powers and fights with furious determination. The next one you can say is kind of controversial. I don't see why, because it's not his doing, but his personal life has taken a hit and it's been affecting his career. So it's, if you haven't put it together, it's Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is somebody that's shown himself to be comfortable being in and around and fighting in and doing all these crazy stuff with water from the Pirates of the Caribbean series. He's also somebody that can definitely be serious when necessary and be kind of like foreboding, that type of fierce determination that it's somebody you don't want to meet whenever he was Grindelwald. But he could definitely be somebody that's loving and caring and compassionate. He's literally somebody that can just change up himself to be any role. You've seen that from his times as a young person, and 21 Jump Street TV show, his time in Nightmare Before Christmas, or not Nightmare Before Christmas, probably there too, but also in on Elm Street, and Alice in Wonderland. He's just done so much that he transcends just being an actor, and he just inhabits a role. To round out the top three, or the big three, I should say, and they're known affectionately in Greek mythology, is Hades. He is described as a 10-foot god, 10-foot tall Greek god of the dead and ruler of the underworld and underground riches. He towers over others when he even sits on his throne of human bones. His jet black hair hangs to his shoulders and frames his albino white face. His black eyes are hypnotic, holding others captive in their intense gaze. He speaks with an oily voice and exudes an aura that compels those in his radius to want to obey him. He wears a crown of gold braid and silk robes that seem to be solid black but at first glance, but are actually shifting and moving with tormented souls, shadows of the dead. So somebody that can fill a role that is a little bit more reserved, that is a little bit more thought-provoking, and it's necessarily his presence, and it looks like he can fight. To me, that screams Andy Biersack. He's a little bit of a lesser known because, especially for me, I know him mainly from his time as the lead singer of Black Veil Brides and his solo artist work and as Andy Black. But he has been trying to get into the acting scene with his movies and American Satan and the upcoming Paradise City that's set to come out in March 2021. He just looks like he was born to play Hades. I haven't really seen too much of his work, as much as I should have, but whenever I was thinking about who should be Hades, this is the guy that screamed to me. So now we're out of the gods for a second, and we're going to go into the next prominent role, which is Chiron, aka Mr. Brunner. He is a very wise centaur with a white stallion as his body, his hindquarters. He helps Mr. D, aka Dionysus, run Camp Half-Blood. He trained in the training of young demigods for a life of battling monsters. Percy himself describes him, Mr. Brunner, as a middle-aged guy with a motorized wheelchair, thinning hair, a scruffy beard, and a frayed tweed jacket, which always smelled like coffee. Chiron pushes Percy hard in his Latin class and beyond, setting high expectations for him. Chiron is also really good at interpreting the oracle's prophecies and helping Percy understand his own, the larger prophecy in the series. So if there's ever an actor that really screams a role from it, not just the looks, but the pedigree of what they've done, is Timothy Dalton as Chiron. Now, while Pierce Brosnan, and I apologize, the other guy, I don't know his name, did pretty well in these roles, Timothy Dalton blends the two styles that they both put together. He is the wise mentor in Doom Patrol, and he is more concerned with nurturing people to become better and better versions of themselves in any means necessary, and mastering their gifts and their powers. But he's also a pretty good fighter from his time as James Bond and in the TV show Chuck. The only downside to this is it might not be able to happen because he is doing Doom Patrol, but I still think he would kill it as Chiron. The next up is Dionysus, aka Mr. D, who is the irritable director of Camp Half-Blood and is the god of wine. His father, Zeus, has sentenced him to centuries of servitude at Camp Half-Blood for bad behavior. Percy describes him as small and but porky. He has a red nose, big watery eyes, and curly hair so black it was almost purple. He wore a tiger pattern Hawaiian shirt, and he would have fit right in at Gabe's poker parties, except he's got the feeling that the guy could have outgambled even his stepfather. So essentially, he is somebody that hates his job, doesn't care for demigods, would rather send them on their way to die rather than actually care for them. That's kind of his role. So a lot of people have said this, and I really could disagree with them. I try to find a better one, but there's no real reason, but it's Jack Black. The only other one that it could be is Danny DeVito, but Jack Black probably fits here more. He is someone that takes his role and maximizes it to the fullest, or to somewhere that is unseen in pre-production. They might have thought that, oh, this is where this character should go, and then he just takes it somewhere completely farther and past their expectations and just blows them away. And he definitely has, the cynical comedic role down to a science at this point. There's no real explanation. He Mr. D is Jack Black. So I'm kind of doing these in order of importance necessarily to the story, if you haven't noticed. So the next one would be Queen of Olympus, Hera. She is Zeus's wife and the goddess of marriage. Her cabin at Camp Half-Blood is pretty much empty. Not pretty much, it is empty, because she wouldn't go around having affairs with mortals. She sees that as her husband's job more so than her job. She seems to be caring, polite, and sympathetic goddess, just like a mother should be, but she manipulates events as she sees fit and doesn't like demigods because she sees them as results of broken marriages and distrust. Essentially, she could care less and just uses them because they're there, essentially. So since I kind of see Hera as more of a darker character than many would, just due to my time listening to the audiobooks and reading the books, I need to get the graphic novels of these because it definitely gives you a different perspective on these characters. It needs an actress that can take Hera as, somebody that prides herself on her marriage to Zeus, but also sees any demigod as just a reason to say, forget you and you need to die. So they need an actress that needs to have beauty that matches with darkness, that keeps the demigods aside from, Percy Jackson and Annabeth, and Lion without question. Who is that? Helena Bonham Carter. Without a doubt, 100% Helena Bonham Carter. If you don't know who she is, shame on you. For one thing, she's been in Sweeney Todd, she's been in Nightmare Before Christmas, she's been in Alice in Wonderland, she was in Harry Potter as a witch, and she just has such a dark look to her that if the makeup is done correctly and done right, she can definitely have the beauty matched with the darkness that her look provides. Next up is Athena, the goddess of wisdom and Zeus's daughter, and also Annabeth Chase's mother. She wears elegant flowing gray robes, Greek battle armor, and an imperial gold helmet on her head, which is decorated with pictures of griffins and sphinxes. She doesn't really approve of Percy and Annabeth's relationship, just due to her rivalry with Poseidon. Essentially, she's just this know-it-all type person because she was born out of Zeus's head, if you know Greek mythology. And so that just means that she has to have like this arrogant kind of I'm always right kind of feel to her. So the person I've chose to play Athena in this movie, or this show, is the person I originally had as Hera. I thought she would fit that role, but she fits way better as Athena, which is Charlize Theron. The reason I switched them mainly is because she has those type of roles in her pedigree from, being in Mighty Joe Young to being in the Fast and Furious franchise and to many other different types of franchises, to where she just has always that I know it all, I am better than you, and I know it, so just deal with it kind of thing. So she kind of just has like this condescending or a way about her that's not always condescending, but it can come across that way, and that's perfect for Athena. Hermes is up next, and he is generally reasonable and a helpful figure and has a greater understanding of mortals. He is not prone to the overt arrogance of some like Zeus or Ares, nor the character quirks like Apollo and Aphrodite. Part of this may be due to part of his job is helping mortals rationalize divine events, giving him a greater understanding of things beyond himself. He resembles a middle-aged man with an athletic figure, slim and fit, with salt and pepper hair as a jogger, and in his original form has a muscular build, curly black hair, blue eyes, elfish features, and a sly grin. He has been known to wear nylon running shoes and New York City marathon t-shirts while jogging, an outfit similar to a mailman's when delivering mail, with a pith helmet which sprout wings and a suit. My choice to play Hermes is Zachary Levi. Nathan Fillion did a pretty good job and as Hermes, and he put his own take on it in the Sea of Monsters, but there's just a more compassionate and caring vibe to Hermes than just being, as distracted as he was in the movies, like such as in the conversation with Percy at camp. You really see that shine through whenever he gives him all that the gear and stuff. And Zach has that range as an actor to be distracted, as he was in Chuck, the TV show, and he was playing the titular character, as well as compassionate and soft-hearted when you see it in Remember Sunday and Thor 2 and 3. As well as Shazam. He's got so much range to himself. I'm not saying Nathan doesn't, but Zach just has a little bit more, in my opinion, to be in that. And he does have a theater background, so he has, technical training with it. He also can slim down if necessary to be a proper jogger look. Joggers are a little bit more slim and kind of like me, thin and not really, buff, which is what Zach is now as Shazam, but that's just me. Up next is Ares, the god of war and Zeus' son, as well as the father of Clarice LaRue, and who are both rivals. Him and Clarice are rivals of Percy in the books. He is described as a typical biker on a Harley with pretty much fireballs as eyes. He exudes rage and fear to anyone close to him and loves a good fight. Whenever Luke stole the Master Bolt, he technically did, because Ares caught Luke stealing the Helm of Darkness and the Master Bolt, and he kept those and let Luke go because he knew what was essentially coming, and he gave both of the Master Bolt and the Helm of Darkness to Percy at a diner in Denver. So essentially he's wanting the War of the Gods. That's his character archetype. He wants fight. He wants conflict. That's what gives him strength and power. The person I feel is more apt to playing Ares is Idris Elba. He just has this presence to him that just kind of is Ares. He brings the rage and the fear with him whenever he walks into a room. And essentially what I'm wanting to do with this casting is show that the gods choose how they look and what they look like. So race really isn't an issue when it comes to casting necessarily. And with his work in Hobbs and Shaw, he was cocky and bolsters in that movie to where you knew he was going to mess you up if you actually got into a fight with him. But you also need to have somebody cast that can be believable as being beaten by a 12-year-old who gets lucky and kills his boar and essentially defeats him and the coast of California towards the end of the first season. Now we're getting into roles that are more mentioned rather than shown initially in the books, which we're going with Aphrodite at first, who is the goddess of love, Hephaestus' wife, and the girlfriend of Ares. She is both temperamental and arrogant. She is also shown to be crafty, flirtatious, and seductive. Despite these qualities, she is both very loving and passionate, having a faith in love that is absolute and true. Aphrodite is very benevolent and gentle to those she favors and deeply cares for her children as well as their fathers. My pick for Aphrodite, who is someone that needs to be the most beautiful person in the room with next to no effort, and she knows it, that is definitely Jessica Alba. Jessica is someone that can pull off that effortlessly beauty as an actress and can be someone that pushes love to everyone she comes in contact with. If you don't believe me and think that I'm just pulling this rabbit out of her hat, watch her episode of Hot Ones on YouTube and it'll prove it. She literally is eating hot wings and starts doing her makeup in the middle of it. So up next is someone I believe shows up in book 3 more so than anything else, along with her brother. This is Artemis we're talking about. She is a tall person that possesses a well-built body. She has shoulder-length raven black hair and striking silver gray eyes that can easily intimidate anyone when she is angry. She is extremely beautiful and lovelier than all of her other attendants, aka her hunters. She is focused, reserved, and reasonable as a woman, but is also extremely stoic and pragmatic. She doesn't frequently lose her temper and usually speaks more calmly to others, even male demigods. She prefers the company of her followers and animals to even that of the other gods, passing most of her time hunting in the wilderness. She possesses a deep caring for her maidens, especially for the ones whom she presides over. So while Artemis mainly appears more as a teenager to blend in with her hunters more so than her adult side, I believe Keira Knightley is someone that could definitely pull off the proficiency in fighting with her time as in the Pirates of the Caribbean, as well as in that same series, she showed that she can be somebody that is definitely no nonsense and doesn't take. I know I'm saying this a lot, but it's a running joke now. Up next is Apollo, who is the Greek god of the sun, poetry, music, archery, and proficiency. He often appears in human form, though his look is never the same, really. He has appeared as a tall, muscular, tanned, and extremely handsome 20-something with long, wavy blonde hair pulled back in a messy man bun, and as an outdoorsy teenager, with a sandy hair and laughing blue eyes, and even as a disheveled homeless man with filthy clothing. While I insist on reciting flawed haiku as far as gods go, Apollo is more harmless than harmful. He takes delight in teasing his twin sister Artemis, and again, he's more self-serving than anything else. He always thinks everything is about him and only him, and if there's any way to turn the conversation into being about him, he takes it. Like I did with Idris Elba as Ares, I chose to do that kind of similar thing to Apollo as well. So I chose Jason Momoa. Obviously, most people know him, but he's been in Game of Thrones. He is Aquaman. He's done a ton of different types of, kind of serious roles necessary. So I'm trying to bring more out of him for his acting chops as somebody that is comedic, because that's exactly what Apollo is. So I feel that with the looks alone of Jason Momoa, who has, the 8-pack abs of Apollo in the books, he can definitely use that to his advantage, being cast as Apollo and being just that self-serving or self-centered type person that always thinks of himself rather than anyone else, even though that's definitely not Jason Momoa's personality. Demeter is somewhat fussy and has overprotective maternal instincts, which makes her an ideal mother, but can be absent-minded at times, which explains how Persephone could have been kidnapped by Hades. Demeter has long blonde hair, the color of ripe wheat, and wore a bright green dress with a dark cape, which gave her the appearance of a fresh plant roots breaking through fertile earth when she moved. Though she really doesn't become that big of a factor until later on in the series, she does have moments in the show, so definitely trying to cast her early on as possible will definitely help out later problems not happen, really. So a person I've chose is Mila Kunis. She definitely knows how to play the airhead type of character whenever she was Jackie Burkhardt on That 70s Show, but she can definitely, as an actress, show that she can be a force to be reckoned with from her time on Jupiter Ascending and in Bad Moms. Not saying it's necessary, but her being a mother does help her show that she can be caring and overprotective of her over something. So having just personal experience with it as well as time on set and in movies is definitely going to go a long way to proving her as Demeter. Last up is Hephaestus. He is described as red, lumpy, and covered in welts, as if he had been bitten by millions of bees and then dragged across the gravel. He is described as having too much man fur and had to shave multiple times a day, even as a child. He has a deep, booming, and rumbly voice. He wears a permanent scowl. His laugh is so loud that it rattles his tools off the workbenches. He is aloof, pragmatic, cynical, and has a subtly fatalist point of view of others, especially his fellow Olympians, if not all organic life forms in general. He has a tendency to be gruff as well as bitter, or be bitter and disappointed in life and people and in other living organisms. So even though he does look a bit deformed and not being disrespectful, but he has that type of face that can pull off any type of prosthetics very easily, is Anthony Hopkins. He's a phenomenal actor in almost any role he does, and he also plays Odin in the MCU, so I didn't really want to give him like a Zeus type role because he's already done that, and I want to try to show range with him, and I want to try to put people that you probably didn't think could be in these roles. Anthony Hopkins has done phenomenal roles, like I said, as Odin in the MCU and as Dr. Hannibal in Silence of the Lambs. He is just a phenomenal actor that could kill it as a blacksmith deformed type of being. So I hope you enjoyed my list. If you have any type of suggestions for who you think would be better in these roles than the ones I pointed out, or even a better reasoning for the actors I've chose, please leave them down in the comments below, and I hope to be making more videos like this soon. Or if not like this, just doing more reviews like I was doing. I'm sorry I've been absent. Life has just been hectic the last couple months, just with family problems and personal issues that I don't really want to get into that much. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to hearing your comments.